Hello there everyone and welcome back to another Muunilinst MOC update video. And in this video I will be finishing up some of the work that I left off in the previous video, and I will also be starting on the next large-scale building. So it's a very exciting episode, and without any further ado, let's get started. Alright guys, so to start off this episode I wanted to show off a few things here. You'll notice the building from last episode has had a little bit of work done on it. There was some stuff that I didn't finish last episode, but I've kind of finished that up right now. So first, right off the bat, we can see down there in the corner of the building, I have completed the wall all the way around the back side here, so it is now all complete and ready to go. Kind of filled in all the masonry brick and the light gray, so now this side is covered. So you can look at it from all different sides now, and it's looking pretty good and complete, so that is awesome. And that's kind of the big main thing for this building. I made a few other small details, but nothing too crazy. I think I'm going to work a little bit more on the top section, kind of where those two droids are at, try to get that a little more detailed. But that shouldn't take too long, and then after that I'm going to move on to this next building, and I'll probably start to build that this episode. So I think it's going to be a pretty exciting episode, so let's go ahead and get started. Alright guys, so I did a little bit of work here on the next building. I'll put a screenshot on screen right now to show you guys kind of what I was looking at and trying to recreate. So the wall on that particular building from the screenshot that I'm trying to create is fairly flat and straight up, and there's not a lot of texture on it. I've kind of talked about this before on previous episodes, where since this is a 2D animation from the 2003 Clone Wars, some of the surfaces aren't textured because they're just kind of structures that are in the background. They're kind of flat. Some of them, obviously the buildings that are closer have some texture on them, but a lot of them are just kind of this kind of flat and kind of not as textured look to them, which makes it interesting trying to adapt it into Lego form. So what I did right here is I've got the archway right there as the doorway. I've got the kind of translucent black pieces on both sides to kind of represent the windows, and I don't know how well you can tell down there, but I've got masonry brick on certain parts of the build. I've got some modified bricks with 1x2 tiles sticking out of it down there, as you can see, just trying to make it give it texture. So it's a flat building, but I'm really trying to give it some texture still, and that's what part of those kind of masonry brick and tiles are supposed to do. One thing, I was looking again at more screenshots of Muunilinst because I was looking at this side. It's very, very flat and just not very interesting. And the big thing that I did was, first I was scrolling through screenshots to try to find this building again, and of course I found a different screenshot that I had saved that had a very interesting building on it. So I started to look at that, and I was like, immediately caught my eye, and I was like, you know what? I feel like I need to do that building. Now, the main reason that I looked at that new screenshot and found that building was because I started to look at the MOC from this angle down here. So this is one of the main angles, is where you look from the battlefield in this archway all the way down to the end of the city area for this portion, and you can see that building right there. Now, this angle is one of the most important ones in the MOC, in my opinion, and when you look through these gates in this archway towards the back of the MOC, I do not want that to be the building that you look at, because it's just so flat and it's not very textured, right? I do not want that to be the building that you look at. I feel like if we had a building maybe with some columns, or some of these other buildings that I did, like just a massive building in the back right there would be great as like the centerpiece of like with the MOC to kind of look through these gates and see. But as it is right now, I just feel like it doesn't look that good as like a big structure that's like kind of one of the things of the centerpiece of the MOC in the back, because it is kind of in the center of the MOC, and when you look down from the battlefield down to the end, that's what you're going to see. So this building needs to stand out and look really good. So I'm just starting to think that I chose the wrong building to try to recreate for this particular part of the MOC. So I've got a couple options now. I'm going to have to make some decisions, and some tough ones here, especially since I spent the whole day working on this part of the building and trying to do that. I think what I need to do is take this down and tear it apart. That's really painful for me to say after spending so long on it, but I need to make this building stand out. It needs to look good. It needs to have lots of detail, because when you look through the front of the MOC, this is the building that you're going to see all the way down at the end of the table, so this one needs to look good. So I think I'm going to change this building and do a different building that I saw in the background somewhere on a screenshot. But I don't want to throw away this design because I like the way the door looks and the archway and some of those tiles. So what I'm thinking is perhaps I move that design that I just did in that building over here to this building right here, which I'm still considering moving this building back this way, so we can have the center of the MOC like free. So what I'm probably going to do, I think I mentioned last episode maybe, is perhaps move this building back. So maybe I just take that design and put it over here possibly, I'm not sure what the future holds for this current design, but I'm going to tear everything down and essentially start over again on the building, because the building needs to be better, it needs to be more grand, it needs to have more detail, so I need to find a different building to take inspiration from, and I think I found a building that's just way in the background somewhere that I think will look really good. So I'm going to go ahead and try that. I'm just frustrated with myself. I don't know. Spent all day on it, and oh well. That's part of the Lego process, and I wanted to document it because that's my whole thing with this series. Is I bring you guys step by step along the process, and sometimes, unfortunately, this is the process where you spend all day, maybe even a week, building something, and then you're just like, it's not going to work. I have to take it down. So that is part of Lego building. So I'm going to go ahead and take this down, but save the design in case I need it later. And I'm going to start on a new building design. Alright guys, so after a long night, I have got the structure down and the idea for what I'm going to do for the next building here. So after looking at the screenshot, it's kind of hard to tell because it was such a low, it was all the way off in the building that I'm looking at for reference, it was all the way off in the background on Muunilinst and very low resolution, but I've kind of thought of a way to do this in Lego and kind of put my own twist on it. So essentially what I'm doing here is I'm kind of making this, it's going to be like the middle of the city. So essentially you'll kind of go through the whole area of the battlefield, and then I've kind of got these steps, multiple of them, kind of like a grand entrance type thing where you'll go up these steps, have two very large pillars, and then there's the structure of the building. You can see I've laid the ground level of the plates where the structure, like the rest of the building, will be built on top of. Here's what the detail on the side of the walls looks like. It's essentially the same exact design that I've been using throughout most of the buildings on Muunilinst. I've actually taken a break from this design. The past two buildings you've seen me build in this build series have taken kind of a different route, and they look a little bit different, but I wanted this building to kind of look similar to the buildings in the front of the city. So I've kind of resembled that pattern by using plates and masonry, brick and sand green, and then also plates in light bluish gray as well. So that's kind of what I've got going on right there. And then here is what the stairs look like, or kind of the entrance to the actual building itself. I'm just using lots of different tile pieces here to kind of give that textured look. You can see if you stack them on top of each other like this, you get an interesting textured look, and I actually think it looks pretty nice. Now, I obviously would love this to be a lot bigger, but I think this is going to be the best size for how many pieces I have left and where this takes place in the MOC. So that's what I've got so far for the build. Now the next step is going to be working on the pillars and starting to kind of cover this area up, and then building the rest of the walls up, and we'll kind of see what it looks like, and I'll update you guys once I have some more progress. Alright guys, so I got a lot of work done on the building here. As you can see, I've built up the side walls, done some more work on the pillars, and added in a little bit of an entrance. So this has all been worked on since the last time you guys saw the last video segment here, and I'll show you guys a couple of details here. Right off the bat, one thing I did find pretty funny was I kind of mentioned earlier in the video that first design that I had for the original building. I actually still liked it and I wanted to use it for a different building. Well, it turns out I actually just integrated part of that design back here into this new building. So I used that same archway and same entrance that I had on the previous prototype that I showed you guys earlier, and I essentially used some of the windows as well, and I put that as like the door or entrance to the new building, and I think that works very well. So I was sitting around like, oh, what am I going to do for the entrance? And I was like, oh, wait a second, I could totally rework that little door I had earlier, and I definitely was able to do that. So that's really cool. I've added in some more details here on the actual pillars. Of course, none of this is completely finished yet. And then on the side here, I just went with a very simple kind of basic design. It's essentially light gray bricks mixed in with some sand green masonry and some sand green 1x1s as well. All sorts of different things to create this kind of wall. I know it's a little bland, but it's kind of the thing with large scale is everything's so large scale, and you guys know from seeing the rest of the city area, you have to use up a lot of parts, and sometimes it's hard to have large quantities of your detail pieces. So ideally it would be really cool if this side panel was the same as this bottom part down here. So like what I'm talking about is using plates and stuff instead of bricks, but this wall is so tall that I pretty much had to use bricks. If I tried to use plates, I would have used up so many plates going from the bottom to the top. So that's one of those sacrifices that kind of had to be made. I'll see if I can come up with anything different, but for now, this is kind of what the design is. It's not super like intriguing, but the main purpose of this building is the front area. So, and then the side back there is pretty much the same as this side. But here's what we got so far. I want to take you guys over here to the original angle that I was talking about in the beginning of the episode, where I said I wasn't feeling that previous building because there just wasn't anything interesting there when you took a look at it from a kind of perspective from across the build. But now we can go down here, and this is what I was envisioning once I realized I didn't like my previous design, was looking through all the way through the MOC and seeing those kind of grand steps. They're not super big, but kind of from a minifig perspective, they look pretty decent size, and the pillars are very, very large as well. I really love the idea of kind of the centerpiece as you look through this archway, centered up, all symmetrical, and in the center is this kind of more grand-like entrance with the stairs and the pillars and everything like that. So that is very reassuring that I've got it looking like this so far. Definitely a lot better than I think the other design. Next, I've got to do a few more things here, but I think I'm gonna have to save that for next episode. Running out of time here before I've got to head back to college here. I'm kind of pre-recording a bunch of videos and I'm kind of running out of time here, so this is probably going to have to be it for this mock update. I apologize for not finishing the building, but I still think I got a decent amount of progress. I finished up most of the details on the large building from last episode, and then I started with the first design, which I spent a lot of time on, and then it ended up not working, and then I spent the past couple days now doing this other design, and this is kind of what I've got so far. So we've got the steps, the pillars, and the base layer down there that I showed a few clips ago, and the wall. So next episode, what I'm going to do is finish this building out. Essentially, that means you can see that center part needs to be built up to the same height as the walls with those pillars, and then I need to start on the kind of second portion, I guess, which is kind of, it's going to be built up a little bit more, and then you'll see the roof. So kind of envision how, see how this building right here has two levels. So we've got the bottom level and the top level. I need to work on the top level next, and I kind of have an idea of what I'm going to do, but we'll figure it out along the way, and I'm definitely open to any sort of suggestions you guys have. As always, leave those in the comments section below, because this is a good stopping point for me, because I can kind of see what you guys have to say, and if you guys have any cool ideas to add on to what I've got so far. I know it's probably hard to envision what this building is going to look like, but I'm running out of time, so I'm going to have to leave it like this for now, and I'll get to it on the next episode. One other thing I'm going to mention real quick was I actually like having this building right there, because you can see back there it's a little dark. The building's blocking the lights, but I'm starting to get some of those narrow Muunilinst streets, which is something I was missing in the MOC up until I constructed this new building. Was I really wanted to get across that narrow streets kind of structure that you see in the 2003 show with Fordo and his men kind of walking down the streets, getting ambushed by that AAT and stuff like that. But I wanted to show kind of these narrow streets where there could be a lot of chaotic hand-to-hand combat or ambush positions for the droids to set up once the clones come walking on in to take Muunilinst. So that's going to be it for this episode. Probably not a ton of progress, and it might be hard to know what I'm going for, but I still think I got a lot done nonetheless, and I'll be looking forward to reading some of you guys' feedback in the comment section below. So let's go ahead and get on to the outro. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you did enjoy. I'm definitely happy that I decided to change up the design on the building, because I think this new design is going to look a lot better, and this is kind of the angle where I want the camera to be for some cool cinematic shots, kind of looking up at these steps. I think this just looks a lot better compared to what I had earlier. The plan for next episode is going to be finishing up this building, and to do that I will kind of be adding in another section up top, and then I will be starting to work on the roof. So I think it's going to look really good. My plan is to hopefully finish that up by next episode. So as always, leave your feedback in the comment section below. Hope you guys have a great day, and may the Force be with you always.